Well, good morning everybody. How y'all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. Hey, today I want to get on here and give you guys 5 things that you should not do, or at least should consider, so that you don't ruin your truck. I mean, the worst thing you can do is to go out, pick up that brand new, shiny, gorgeous Tacoma, and then do things to it that are gonna ruin it while you're trying to make it better. And I'm not talking about personal preference things here, you know, like chrome and stuff like that, I personally don't care for. You do what you like. As they say, you do you. But here are 5 things that you should be aware of and definitely not do, because it could ruin your truck, or at least your day. The first thing is, don't put bigger wheels and tires on without doing your research. I am guilty of this, although I did research, but I didn't do enough. Now, what am I talking about? Well, first of all, make sure that they're going to fit, that you're not going to have rubbing, either on the fenders, on the edges on the inside, that little air valance that's on front. If you want to keep it and you put bigger wheels and tires on it, it's going to rub, so you need to have a plan. Don't be driving down the road, turn and rip that thing off because that nice giant tread you just put on, those great big 35-inch wheels, grabs the corner and rips that thing off. Be prepared. Do some research. Also, make sure that you don't have too much poke. Do you know what I mean by poke? Let me show you here. Let's go around. We'll look down the side of my truck, and it's a great example now because I have smaller wheels and tires on. But if you look down the edge, you don't see my tire poking out at all, right? Now, I gotta tell you, I love a little bit of poke on my wheels, right? Or my tires. I like them to stick out a bit. But you can't go crazy for a couple of reasons. One, it is a danger to people behind you. You're more likely to throw crap up off that little edge of your tire that's sticking out, hit the poor guy driving the Prius behind you. Now, if you want to be courteous, maybe you just don't care, I don't know, don't do that. But secondly, and probably more important to you and your wallet, is when the police pull you over. In a lot of states, if not every state, there are laws that state how much poke you can have. In other words, how far that tire extends out beyond your fender. They will pull you over for that. They will give you a, what do they call it, a correction notice or whatever, whatever they call it, to correct that. That means you're either going to have to put fender flares on, or you're going to have to get different wheels and tires. And I don't know about you, but you're probably not going to get what you paid for them brand new, so you're going to lose some money. So if none of that else matters to you, at least think about your wallet. Second, disconnect your battery before you do electrical mods. I mean, you never know what might happen. You're being careful. You're saying, I'm not going to do anything to cause that battery to be a problem or blow that fuse. You hope the fuse blows if you do, because if it doesn't, you might burn something else up. But it's pretty simple to do. Take the, 30 seconds, if you're slow, to take that negative terminal off and get that battery out of the system before you do anything electrical. It's simple to do, and again, there's nothing worse than putting that brand new light bar, and they do look good on there, and starting to smell smoke when you flip that switch right before there's a pop, or even worse, you see a flame. Make sure you disconnect the battery. Secondly, or thirdly I should say, don't try to prove your manhood by tightening bolts. They only go so far. They'll only take so much. We know you're strong. Don't try to prove it on your bolts, right? Don't crank those things until they submit, until they stop tightening and just turn freely. We've probably all done it. I've done it many times. Learn to stop, because again, there's nothing worse than getting that mount just the way that you want it, and then you go too far, strip that bolt, and now it just rattles around in there, and you've got a bigger problem. Don't prove your manhood by over-tightening bolts. We know you're a man. Fingernails. Fingernails. Now, I don't have long fingernails, but some people have longer fingernails. Don't use them when you should be using a pry tool. or when you're trying to scrape something off. For instance, over here on my truck, you know, I do still have the badges on, but I generally take these off. You don't want to be poking around in here with your fingernails, or if you do, be very careful. But beware, they will scratch your paint. It's amazing how something that seems so delicate and fragile can do so much damage to your paint. If you don't believe me, check inside your door handle area here. I'm betting that you've got a bunch of little micro scratches in here from reaching in and opening and closing your door, especially if you have a spouse that has longer fingernails. The other area is on the inside. When you're pulling trim pieces off or something and you're reaching around trying to grab in here, your fingernails will scratch the edges of these pieces. I know, I've done it. Again, if you don't believe me and you don't have any kind of an overlay like I do, check the inside underneath or behind your door handle. I'm willing to bet you got tons of scratches in here and probably down here on the surface of where your controls are for your windows and locks, because fingernails scratch. Next up, don't make your truck illegal. Nobody wants to be pulled over, and I know all of us say, oh, I should be able to do whatever I want to do with my truck. I agree with you, but the fact is there are laws and things out there, and the cops are going to pull you over if they see something wrong. Don't give them a reason to. And then they cause all kinds of problems. You can have that must remove order, whatever it's called, or they might even fine you. Some examples, the first one I already mentioned was too much poke. Too much poke on your wheels? If it's a problem in your area, they're probably going to get you. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, I see some of these guys that have huge poke on their wheels and tires, and they're getting pulled over several times. Too dark of a tint. I love a dark tint on my truck. I really do. I'd probably have limo tint all the way around if it were legal. The problem is, in most states, it's not. And the cops will pull you over for that. I know several people who have too dark, mine is slightly illegal, that have been pulled over because their tint's too dark. They're told to remove it. Show up in court, remove it, and that costs you money. I mean, you paid to have it put on, right? Too loud of an exhaust. There are, again, in most municipalities, noise laws. You can only have a vehicle so loud. Now, I don't hear about this too much, but if you've got the combination of too much poke, too much tint, too much noise, you're just telling the cops to pull you over. Why risk it? And who wants to hear it? I mean, generally, I don't want to hear a loud exhaust all the time. Too high. Make sure, and what I mean by this, the lift on your truck. Did you know that in a lot of states, you have to have a bumper on the back of your truck at a legal height? If you lift your truck up and you do nothing with that bumper, you are now illegal. And once again, you're asking to be pulled over, and you're probably going to be told to fix it. That's more money. Just saying. The last thing, and that was 5, I'm going to throw in a number 6 for you. Because I've noticed this myself. You probably notice this when you're driving down the road at night. If you put in LED headlights, you know, those nice bright lights, they light up everything. It's like having the sun shining off the front of your truck, right? Make sure that you adjust those back to the proper height, your headlights, that they should be at where they focus on the road. Because if you're in there and you're messing around and you're changing your lights and all that stuff, you're probably going to change the angle that they project out at. Now, why is that a problem? Well, number one, you got to blind that poor guy in the Prius that's coming at you. Again, you may not care about that. Who cares? The problem is if you blind them enough and they can't see and they panic, they might come over to say hello in your lane. Now, that becomes a problem for you, whoever's sitting beside you, and whoever's in the back. Do you really want that to happen? Probably not. Again, we go back to the police. You know, if you're driving down the road, let's say it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what we're doing at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, but we're driving down the road and our lights are all nice and shining everything up so we can see, and there's a cop coming at you. And he flashes his lights because he's thinking you've got your brights on because they're pointed too high, right? And you do nothing. Now they're just looking to do something at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right? I mean, why are you out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. So they're looking to pull people over at those times, and you're giving them a reason because they flash their lights at you and you can't do anything. Your high beams are not on. Your lights are just not adjusted properly. Again, we don't want to have circumstances or reasons on our trucks to get pulled over. Who wants to screw with that? If nothing else, it's just a time inconvenience. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here, give you guys some things that I've noticed that you should not do to your truck and why. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you agree. Do you care about any of these things, or you just, I'll do what I want? As usual, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the web. Have a great day. Bye.